I feel like it's been forever since we've talked about Nancy Drew on the show. That changes this week, and it's because of one of the Bobbsey twins. Yes, the Bobbsey twins. In case you're wondering where they are, part of the Nancy Drew series. And hey, here's one of them right here. It's Amanda Bobbsey, Aadila Dosani, excuse me. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Almost had it. You were there.
I was right there. I was right there on the doorstep, and I tripped on my way in. So,
it happens.
so Aadila, were you actually a fan of Nancy Drew before this, either the series or any of the books or anything like that?
Yeah, I was a huge fan. I feel like I'm like such a sleuth. I had read all the Nancy Drew, like the whole series, and then the Hardy Boys, and quite a few of the Bobbsey twins, because my mom is like a major Nancy Drew, like Drew universe fan.
Wow.
She's actually a pretty big the Bobbsey twins fan. So it was wild. Yeah. Yeah.
Even more wild because, and when I looked this up, I couldn't believe it. I checked it like 2 or 3 times and I could still end up being wrong. But this is like the first time the Bobbsey twins have actually crossed over with Nancy Drew. So what does it kind of feel like to know that you're part of something that hasn't happened in like 100+ years?
Honestly, it's super wild. It's pretty awesome. I mean, are we rewriting history? Creating history? I don't know. This is what I
certainly creating, I would think. Maybe not rewriting, but creating, I would think.
Creating. It's pretty sweet. And I feel like when all of the these sleuthing series come together, it just gets like juicier,
Mm.
It needed to happen, and I'm so glad it happened in 2021.
It's funny too, because it's one of those things where I'm like, and that's why I checked a couple times. I'm like, this hasn't happened before, really? Because it seems like this is something that should have happened before, and it just hasn't. So I just think it's really cool that you guys are able to do it this way.
Yeah, no, and it's dope too, because it's just like this series, like Nancy Drew's, it's so different from the source material. So we get to like totally put our own spin on it, which I think is quite rad. Because the Bobbsey twins were real good to do kids versus the Bobbseys on this show, where we're kind of just stir jazz up.
Yeah, that's kind of that was kind of leading me into my next question, because this is a very different take on the characters. They're not as squeaky clean. So how did you want to approach playing Amanda once you first really started to dive in?
It's funny. I feel like, so I had such a different, when I had initially gotten the role and, you start to prep and all of that jazz, I thought that like she was going to also be where Gil's at, where he hasn't really gotten over his past. He's sitting in all of that, pardon my language, shit from the past that's affecting him. But Amanda, I feel like, is a complete opposite, where she's just like, she is curious and she has hope and she just wants to experience life. And so I feel like once I got that tidbit of information, it was pretty rad, because it gave me permission, which I think is really cool when you have an arc in a series, to have a lot of that curiosity, and then I feel like that's what kind of lights these like dope little fires that your character can have in their journey, versus it being like static in that sense and living in one thing. So it was pretty great in that sense, prepping for her. And what was also really rad was when I found out Praneet, who's playing Gil, was my brother. I feel like we had this like innate connection, because we're both from the same small town. So
wow, what are the odds of that?
I know. When does that ever happen? That doesn't happen in this world.
I mean, both in acting, that's one thing, but both in the same show playing fraternal twins, that no, that doesn't happen.
Isn't that wild?
That's crazy.
Know. And so I feel like we're already like in real life so codependent on each other. So it kind of like we didn't have to do much work on screen, because now I'm like, you're my bro forever.
Yeah, plus you got to do it for the town too, right? You got to represent.
You got to rep the town. Yeah, right. 2 little South Asian kids from Calgary, Alberta.
Crazy. That's awesome. So, I mean, both of them seem to have their own particular set of skills too, though, which I think is really, really cool. So how much are we going to get to them show off these skills in future episodes?
You get to see some skills. It's coming. So you get to see it like a few episodes in. You kind of start to see where Amanda's head turns in this week's episode, which is kind of cool. What's funny though is I thought she would have a completely different set of skills, and then when I read the first episode where she helps the Drew crew out in solving a case, I was like, wait, what? This is not what I was expecting from her. So like I don't want to say anything or spoil anything, but I don't think y'all will guess either. I was like, whoa, say what?
I
So, yeah,
love it.
it
I
was
love it.
bad. Yeah.
That's awesome. We're talking to Aadila Dosani, who of course plays Amanda Bobbsey on Nancy Drew, which you can watch every Wednesday on the CW. Now, Aadila, it seems like Gil and Nancy are pretty close. Okay. I don't think that's a spoiler. I don't think that's pretty out there. So how much will that kind of affect Amanda's relationship with her brother?
You know what it does? Because they look at, and you'll start to see this too, relationships very differently. As like, most people do. You have your own like innate way of being in one, but it definitely affects them in like throughout this series in the second half of season 2, you get to definitely see them explore their massive codependency issues. Just and you get to also we'll unravel where they come from, how they grew up, and it kind of then all makes sense, but it definitely does affect it. And then it kind of, snowballs into Amanda perhaps having a relationship with someone in the Drew crew, maybe. I don't know.
See, I was just going to ask you about that. I'm going to ask you about that. Let's see how good your tap dancing skills are, because it seems like something's brewing there between Ace and Amanda. So,
I mean, it may or may not come to fruition.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
I'm just exactly you and me both. We are on the same tap dancing show. How did you do that? That was such a tongue twister. Tap dance. Tap.
Yeah, okay. That's a tough one.
Yeah,
that's a tough one. I say it all the time. I guess I'm just it's embedded into my brain. I don't know why I choose that particular turn phrase, but that's how I can do it. I've got a lot of practice, is what it is. I can't dance that well, but I can say it.
Listen, your alliteration is on point. I can't also.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I love it. So the show's kind of taken more of a supernatural turn this season, which I think is really cool. And how comfortable, I mean, you said that she's kind of the exploratory type. So, I mean, how's Amanda dealing with all this stuff? Because, I mean, how could you really know how to expect something like this?
Yeah, you don't, actually. And I feel like Amanda, and you'll kind of get to see, like, initially she's like, she gets a little bit wigged out. Because, I mean, let's be real. The stuff that the Drew crew kind of explores and the crimes they solve are legit and literally out of this world.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But her curiosity, I feel like, gets the best of her, and she starts to fit it. She starts to like it. And you'll start to see she starts to gain a voice with that. And I feel like that's kind of where she starts coming out of her shell, is through helping them kind of like solve these crimes and yeah, I can't. Yeah, watch. This is what's happening, is like my tap dancing skills are definitely wearing off. I was like, do I say too much right now? I don't know.
No, I don't think you did. I think you stopped dancing at exactly the right time. You're like, the music's over. I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. It's funny that you say it that way, because I kind of feel like curiosity gets the best of her, is like Nancy Drew's calling card, though. So do you see that about your character? I'm like, oh, so I fit right in. Cool.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like with Amanda, and again, you'll get to see this, is she's never really had a group of friends or core group of friends, or felt like she's belonged, in relationships that kind of like support where she wants to be. And so when she does find that she is like pretty much on the same page as the rest of the Drew crew, you get to totally see her open up and kind of flourish and see how she would go about, helping solve these crimes.
Do you think that's kind of a byproduct of that codependency, though, that you were talking about earlier, with that not having that group of friends? And it's especially with twins, because it's like, we always have each other kind of thing, especially with twins. So do you think that kind of leads into that fact?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you get to see, like, you'll get to see in a couple weeks in episode 9, kind of where Amanda and Gil really differ in terms of how they want to start living their lives, and I feel like that totally impacts it, because she's just like, no, you got to move on from the past, right? Whereas we get to kind of see, and we saw in episode 1, Gil's really having a hard time doing that. And so those differences definitely steer her towards the Drew crew and kind of what they're doing.
Now, Aadila, we're, like you said, we're going to learn a lot more about Amanda and Gil in these upcoming episodes, which I think is great that we're going to get that much of their backstory. It's so cool. And I'm not saying anything here. I'm not trying to put ideas in anybody's heads, but the CW loves their spinoffs and they love their backdoor pilots. They've got a couple for other shows going on right now. Do you think we'll learn enough about them this season for that Twitter sphere to start saying, man, we need a crossover. We need a Bobbsey crossover.
I mean, I hope so.
Or I should say spinoff. Let there spinoff. That's what I meant. Spinoff.
Yeah. I feel like the Bobbseys stir shit up enough, pardon my language, that like, yeah, you kind of want to learn more about them. I want to learn more about them. I keep getting scripts and I'm like, give me more, Amanda. Like, so, and Gil, because Gil's so fascinating himself as well. And there is a lot of underlying jazz there where I would love to see one, but hey, who knows? Being part of the Drew universe in itself is pretty awesome. So, when
I was preparing for the interview, I was looking back at some of the other stuff that you've done, and you seem to like fit in this genre really well. I mean, you've done Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, you did The In-Between, you did Supernatural. Do you just kind of dig this, otherworldly supernatural stuff? Do you sort of like seek this stuff out?
Apparently, what's wild is like I am the biggest chicken. Okay, one, I believe in ghosts. So two, I am naturally terrified of them. Like I will have to go to the washroom in the middle of the night and I won't get up and go because I feel like the boogeyman might like grab my ankles from underneath my bed and then I'll slip and become unconscious. Like it's a problem.
Wow. Yeah, that would be kind of a problem.
So I mean, I feel like it finds me because I am terrified. Like there's some episodes of Nancy Drew that I have to watch during the day because they're done so well.
Totally.
Natural, and the FX team like crush it where I'm like, no, not today.
Listen, I am not skittish like that, but after last week's episode with all the bugs and everything, now every time I see a bug, it's like, go away.
Right? Like,
go away. I'm rushing for some sort of spray or something because we're not doing this.
Yeah. I am with you because I'm like, no, not happening. Adila says it's not happening. Yeah,
And you're implying to me that this is going to get worse. So that's just, that's.
Oh, shoot. Did I do
that's
that?
Great. A little bit. A little bit.
Yeah, it does. It gets wild. And I'm just like, okay, cool. At least I understand how you make it and do it. Still doesn't help my situation, though. I can't.
Well, then you definitely don't want to hear some of the stories I could tell.
No.
Stuff that, you don't want to know.
Okay.
Aadila, before I let you go, I mean, you haven't had a huge like superhero role yet so far, but you've done a couple of things in the superhero realm. So is there any kind of particular character that you'd love to play? Or is there a show that you're like, ooh, I've got to get on that show at least once?
Oh, man. What a loaded question. No. Okay.
I mean, hey, you want to talk about more than one? I mean, we've got time.
That's true. Okay. I am such a DC girl. Like and so I've like always wanted, I don't know why I love her, but I always have wanted to play Detective Renee Montoya. I don't know why, like fully, and then like explore her as the Question. I think that would be so wild. I feel like it just
even better. Yeah.
Right. And like, I don't know. Someone needs to explore that character more and just give her some juice, but I don't know. That'd be wild.
It's funny. I feel like we've been so close to the Question a couple times in the Arrowverse, and it's just never happened. So, I mean, if clearly what you're saying is you're available.
I'm available, guys. If you're listening, because I know you are, right here.
Now, for anybody that's listening and not watching, she points to herself with the thumbs, like this gal right here would like to play the Question. Oh, and I don't even care what show it's on, quite frankly, because that's something that definitely needs to happen. And you definitely need to be watching Nancy Drew every Wednesday night at 9:00 Eastern time on the CW. And of course, on the CW app, you can watch it free next day as well to find out what Amanda Bobbsey is up to. It's Aadila Dosani. Thank you so much for joining me this week.
Yay. Thank you.